Okay, so in the last class we talked about the virtual work method, but we extended it to consider potential energy for the system. So potential energy is basically the negative of work done on the system, and that term we are taking on the right hand side and we call it as potential energy. For example, so if I have got a spring and a mass system, right? So last time we just considered a spring, but now let's have a spring and a mass system. So if it has got mass m, stiffness k, then if we apply a force F, then, and if I just consider the mass alone, so there are two ways of looking at things. So one is, if I excuse me, if I just have mass m and then there are two forces F and the spring force, which is k times x. So here I can apply principle of virtual work, and I can say that F times delta x is the virtual work. So if this moves by an amount delta, right? So if this moves by delta x, then the work done, the principle of virtual work says that the net virtual work should be 0. So means that F times delta x plus, then you will have minus of kx times delta x, and this should be equal to 0. So that leads to your equilibrium equation, which is F is equal to kx. So that is one way of looking at things. The other way of looking at things is when you integrate this equation and we consider the work done. So in that case, this term, which is the work done on the system, we take it on the other hand, on the right hand side, and that becomes the positive, and that thing we call as the potential energy. So from there we can say that the work done by the force. So if there is a finite displacement, so now when we have finite displacement, then we can say that F times let's say distance x is equal to half times kx square. So work done by external force, it gets stored into the potential energy of the system. So the principle of virtual work, which we modified and stated in a little bit modified form, was that the net virtual work by external forces is equal to the virtual change in potential energy, and which includes your delta Vg, the gravitational potential energy, and the elastic potential energy due to spring. So we consider two effects. One is gravity, and the second one is the spring or any elastic elements in the system. So that is what we discussed in the last class, and let us consider our next relevant topic. Why we wanted to study the potential energy is because we want to study the stability of the system. Okay, my computer is not responding. So currently the system that we are talking about, again stability is again a wide word, but currently we are considering system only with gravitational and elastic potential only. Okay, so we are considering systems with no external forces except gravity and elastic potential springs in the system. So we want to study the stability analysis for what do we mean by stability of such a system, and how do we quantify that stability? So we want to describe it qualitatively as well as quantify it. So to start the analysis for such a system, what we have seen using the principle of virtual work so far is the change in the the change in or the virtual work done by all external forces is equal to the change in potential energy of the system, right? That is what we have seen so far. Now the system that we are considering, there is no external forces, right? For this discussion on stability, we are considering only this thing. So there is no external forces. So therefore, this term will be equal to 0, which means that this is going to be 0. So what it means that your virtual change in elastic potential plus the virtual change in gravitational potential energy will be equal to 0. So this is for equilibrium, right? So this we are talking about. So this is what principle of virtual work says for equilibrium. So for equilibrium, the change in potential energy should be equal to 0. And when we say that change in the potential energy is 0, it means del V is equal to 0, which if I write which is a differential of your potential is 0, and if I have, for example, for a 1D system, which we are going to look at, so then I can express this as dV by dx should be equal to 0. So if I have system, let's say in x as an independent coordinate, then this expression for a 1D system can be expressed as this, and this is the condition for equilibrium of the system, right? So now let us see by the help of a simple example, again a spring mass system, but now it is vertical. So now we have got a spring mass system which is vertically it is released. So let us say this is unstretched length. So this is stretched length or unstretched configuration, and then when I leave it, it moves a little down to something like this. So from this configuration, it has gone down by, let's say, a displacement of x. So so this is the original configuration, and after small display, after a displacement of x, this is the new configuration. Now if I write the elastic potential energy stored in the system in the second configuration with respect to first configuration, or change in potential energy, so this I can say it is half kx square, right? So spring has got certain has increased its potential energy, and then for this whole system we can see that the gravity this mass m has come down by a distance x. So the gravitational potential energy for the new configuration is less, so it is minus of mg x. So this is the individual potential or potential energy difference between second configuration and first configuration, and therefore I can write the new potential energy in the second configuration as minus of mgx plus half kx square. So this is the potential or potential difference, you can say, and then when I calculate del V by del x, so what we say that for equilibrium the change in potential should be equal to 0, which for a 1D configuration changes to dV by dx should be equal to 0. And when we say dV by dx is equal to 0, it is minus of mg plus kx is equal to 0, and this is what you get is the equilibrium equation, which is, so x at equilibrium is going to be mg by k. So this is the, for equilibrium configuration, we know that the displacement where it is going to be in equilibrium is when your mg force is going to balance your kx force, and this is going to be the equilibrium configuration. So again, from Newton's laws, again we could have come to the same result, but using the potential energy approach, that's what we come here. Now, a very important thing to, and one of the reasons why we are talking it, is the type of stability. So this is the equilibrium position, and now we can say that this, so let me write it down. So this is the equilibrium position, but now the question comes that what type of equilibrium it is, what type of equilibrium. So now this question is is a pretty interesting question, that what type of equilibrium, and let me give you an example to try to understand this this case. Let us say if we have got a ball resting on a floor, right? So there are three types of floor. One is leveled floor, the second one is a concave floor, I mean seen from the top, and then here you have a floor which is convex shape. So now the question comes that what type of equilibrium are these situations, right? Because in all of these situations the ball is at rest, and if I draw the free body diagram of the ball in any of the configuration, the free body diagram gives me the same thing. So it says that force mg is acting right now, and then there is a normal force which is balancing this, and everything is fine, and the system is in equilibrium, right? So ball is at rest on three different surfaces, and all three situations are in equilibrium. But again, the question is what type of equilibrium. So from our experience, you know that suppose if you just disturb this system a little bit, you know that this is going to fall apart. For it will just roll away, and it is never going to come back to the same position, right? So therefore, this type of equilibrium is what is called as unstable equilibrium. Because it is unstable, because if you disturb it, so if I disturb or perturb the system, then it will not return to the same configuration. This type of configuration is what is called as a stable equilibrium. It's called stable because, right? So if I disturb the system a little bit, it will go away, but then it will eventually, it may have an oscillations, but it will eventually come back to the same position, because our intuition says, that it is at its minimum position. So it may oscillate a little bit, but it is going to come back. So in stable equilibrium, system returns to same position. And the third configuration, which is if you have got a flat horizontal surface and if I have a ball rolling here, then this type of configuration is called as neutral equilibrium. Because if I push the ball, it will come to some other position, right? Or it may, so it doesn't matter to the ball whether it is in which position, right? So it is everywhere, it is same for the ball. So that's a neutral equilibrium. Now what we have explained is again a more given a more qualitative feeling for these equilibrium, but when it mathematically, these three states of equilibrium can be expressed in terms of potential energy, and that's why we are discussing this topic. So if we have a stable equilibrium, then the condition for a stable equilibrium here is that the second derivative of your potential energy, that has to be greater than 0. So for unstable equilibrium, this is going to be less than 0, and for neutral equilibrium, this again there is no clear definition for to my remembrance. For neutral equilibrium, not sure if it is equal to 0 or but yes, for these two cases, this is greater than 0, this is less than 0. And let us see the first the example that we were discussing. So in a case of simple spring mass system, this is the expression for potential energy, right, or the potential difference. Let me rewrite this expression. So V is equal to half kx square minus mgx. So for equilibrium, position is obtained by dV by dx is equal to 0, and from here you obtain that x equilibrium is mg by k, that we know. Next is to determine the type of equilibrium, we do a double derivative of the generalized expression. So dV by dx was kx minus mg. So let me write it down. dV by dx was kx minus mg, and if we do a double derivative with respect to x, that becomes k, and generally k is positive. So therefore this is greater than 0, and therefore this equilibrium position here, right, I am talking about this equilibrium position here, this equilibrium position is a stable equilibrium position. It means that if I disturb this mass either way, either downward or upward, it is going to come back to its position. It will vibrate, but eventually it will come to its position if there is a little bit of damping. So that's the discussion on type of equilibrium. And another good example given in this regard is as follows. So if I have a stable equilibrium, just now we have seen this example, right? So stable equilibrium is, this is one such example, and I can have a similar example, let's say a simple pendulum, right? Or if I have got a, let's have a rod, something like this, right? So so this is another example of stable equilibrium, that if I disturb this pendulum, it is going to eventually come back to its equilibrium position, which we know is this. Same way is for a pendulum, having a rigid body vibrating. So that's a stable equilibrium. Example of unstable equilibrium is what is called as an inverted pendulum. So for example, if I have a system something like this, and if I have a rod just vertical, something like this. So theoretically speaking, you can say that okay, there is weight mg acting downward, and there will be a normal reaction which will balance mg and things are in equilibrium, but it is a dangerous equilibrium, because the moment it moves a little bit, there is a little bit of perturbation, it will eventually fall down, and it is not going to come back to this position. That's called as unstable equilibrium. And another example for neutral equilibrium in this regard is, suppose if I have got a rod with center of mass at middle and I have a hinge at this point itself, something like this. So this is a rod which can rotate freely, and it really doesn't matter to the rod which configuration it is, right? So whether it is here or it is here or it is here, it is same for the rod. So this is an example of neutral equilibrium. Okay, so I think that's all for the discussion on virtual work and stability. Now, just to give you some more finishing touches to this topic, Let me talk about another interesting work concept, which is virtual work for. We can have multi-degree of freedom system, but let me start with, or let me just discuss about 2-degree of freedom system. So what does this mean, 2-degree of freedom system? So an example is, for example, in assignment 1 you have attempted a thing called as a robotic arm, right? So if you remember, it is, suppose if I have something like this. Let's say this is my system. Now here you can see that there are 2 independent parameters or variables that I can work with, right? So this is one variable and this is another variable that I can work with, right? So let me for example, if you just consider your hand, right? So there is let us say this is an example of your hand. So this is like your shoulder, right? This point is like your shoulder, and this is so let's say this is an angle theta1, and then this is like your elbow, and this has got an angle theta2. Now you can visualize, or you can yourself understand that you can independently move your shoulder and you can independently move your elbow. You can move them together, you can move them separately. So these 2 parameters are independent, and that is what is called as, the term called as degree of freedom of a system, right? So this degree of freedom basically means number of independent variables, and sometimes it is also called as coordinates required to exactly specify configuration of a system. So that is the first definition of what do we mean by degree of freedom. So degree of freedom of a system is defined by the number of independent coordinates or number of independent variables required to exactly specify the configuration of a system. So in the first case, I mean the case that we saw just a few minutes back, so if I just have a pendulum, then I have only one coordinate to specify, theta, and everything else is specified in that system. So that was a 1-degree of freedom system. It had 1 degree of freedom. Similarly, some other examples that we have seen in the course of the discussion, for example, this kind of a system, or and similar things are there even in your IC engines and so on. So these are all examples of 1 degree of freedom system. So in 1 degree of freedom system, we say that we applied that the net virtual work is equal to 0, and that's how we solved some of these types of systems. But now what if you have a system with multiple degree of freedom? How do we apply a principle of virtual work to such a system? Right? That's what we will see. Another definition for degree of freedom, another I would say more practical definition for degree of freedom, and particularly more relevant to electrical engineers and the branches, is the number of actuators required to drive a system. Number of actuators required to drive a system. Now again, in this example, same example of a robotic arm, just a simple 2D robotic arm, here you can see that you have to put 2 motors, maybe stepper motor or servo motor or BLDC or whatever, but you have to have 2 motors to give two inputs, theta 1 and theta 2, and to control, if you want to control theta 1 and theta 2, you need to have two actuators in the system. So that is also same as your degree of freedom of the system. Okay. So with this introduction, now let us see how do we apply the principle of virtual work to such a system. And let's talk about this example where I have two pendulums. So in fact, what you are seeing this is, so if I hinge this point, so this is basically called as an inverted pendulum. Not inverted, it's called a double pendulum, sorry for that. So this thing is called as a double pendulum, right? You can see this is two pendulums hanging behind each other, and that if I have got a strings and balls, then it simplifies to this diagram. By the way, double pendulum is such a beautiful topic. If you study the dynamics of it, and I encourage you to look for the dynamics of double pendulum, it is totally fascinating, right? It's I don't want to describe it right now, but it is totally fascinating. Okay, so now if I have got two masses m1 and m2, let's say length L1 or L, just for simplicity, let's take it at L. And now we want to, let's say we are applying a force P horizontally, and now we want to calculate the equilibrium configuration. So the question is, we want to find equilibrium configuration if P acts horizontally, right? So on this system we have got two masses, and now you can see that they are independent, right? So they have, it's a 2 degree of freedom system. So I have one theta 1, I have theta 2, and M1G is acting downward, M2G is acting downward, and we want to calculate the equilibrium configuration. You can do it using the Newton's laws as well, and I encourage you to do that. You to try using Newton's laws. But now let's say we want to do using the principle of virtual work.
Screen is not presenting.
Sir, screen is not visible.
For currently we are discussing 2 degree of freedom system. The virtual work principle, how do we apply that? So we have to apply
We are not able to see
virtual work 2 times.
Sir, screen is not visible.
Once for each degree of freedom. Right. So what we will do, first time we will say that, let's say theta 2 only moves, right? So one time we will give virtual displacement to theta 2 and write the principle of virtual work. Next time we will give the displacement, virtual displacement only to theta 1 and write down the principle, right? And that's how we will solve it. So in the first configuration, let me copy this figure. Okay. Now what we will do is we will give a virtual displacement to, let's say, theta 2. So now this, let me use a different color. This point has moved like this, and this we have given a virtual displacement of delta theta 2. Now if I give the virtual displacement delta theta 2, P has again moved, like P is horizontal, so it will remain horizontal. So now here we can say that minus M2G, so this is the force acting vertically downward, this is M2G, Now its component, which is along this, so this angle is theta 2, so this component is m minus m2g sine theta. So minus m2g sine theta 2.
Hello.
This is the
Can you screen
force,
is
and
not
displacement is in the opposite direction. So displacement is equal to delta theta 2 times L, right? So this is the virtual work done by the gravity in this virtual displacement delta theta 2, plus work done by P. So P's component along this direction, this is theta 2, this is 90 minus theta, this is theta 2. So the component of P along the displacement is P cos theta 2 times, again the virtual displacement of mass is delta theta 2 times L, and this should be equal to 0. So this is one equation that we have obtained.
Excuse me, sir,
Again,
can you
you
hear
can see that L delta theta 2 gets cancelled, and from here what we get is tan of theta 2 is equal to P by m2g, right? So that is the displacement. Just give me a minute, a lot of phone calls. And so this is one equation that we have written. The second equation is again going to be for theta 1. So now we have this configuration, but now we will apply the principle of virtual work to configure to theta 1. So we will have this going a little bit like this. So this is the thing, and then this is going to move parallelly. The second link will be parallel, so it will move like this. And now we can write the again the change in the virtual work. So this has moved by a distance of L delta theta 1, and same thing will be true for this as well. This has moved by L delta theta. Just give me a minute. Hello.